Welcome everyone, Grand Gnosis Master, Dr. Lord Templar here. I'm going to talk about an area that I get questions on consistently, and how do I reach the state of Gnosis faster, or just in general. Now, you're talking about reaching the highest state of human development. There is no higher state, plain and simple. This is a state of consciousness where you understand everything, where you can access and get any information that you need. Now, as I've talked about before, this is not a state of empowerment, meaning you don't reach Gnosis and you're some sort of demigod. It's having access to and knowing what is the reality of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Plain and simple. You now are able to completely change your life because you know how to do it. So that doesn't mean that it's easy or that this is a state of empowerment. If you know that you have to live a certain lifestyle to achieve something and you know exactly what it's going to take to do it, does that mean you're going to do it? Well, most people in certain areas of life understand what they have to do, and we don't do it. We don't eat right, we don't exercise, etc. This is a pain. We're not interested in that. We want a quick, easy, take a pill solution. This is not the way reality works. So you must understand that Gnosis will give you that. I know exactly how to solve any problem that's out there. It's not difficult. Will I do it personally? Can you solve world problems? Well, of course not, because people are not going to go along with what you tell them. And you may not be doing what you should be doing as well. But how does this process start? How do you know all of this? Well, I've lived a very interesting life away from the public. I've always had a very unusual view of reality and a very high state of understanding ever since I've been a youth. The fact that I was not involved with groups of other people, religions, other things, yet I was on the periphery of this. I saw what was going on and gained the information I needed from there, but didn't get involved in the actual indoctrination of it, whatever it may be, whether that may be the military or church or other organizations. As soon as you get involved with society and you become part of some organized group, you are then forced to think and act the way they want. Now, you can do this in a very smart manner, meaning the fact that you get involved in these organizations to benefit from their social structure and do what you have to do to go along, so you get those benefits. Or you get caught up in the whole rigmarole of it. And that's what most people do. They get caught up in everything, and then they become just exactly what they try and avoid. They believe the programming of that. As soon as you get involved in society and you work for a corporation, well, that extends to the fact of that believing in the entire system, and that means supporting the system and supporting all the problems that they created. This is a reality. So, being a person who has to look at things completely different, and of course I was able to do this because of a bizarre childhood, the problems with mentally ill parents and what they produced, and the fact that society in general was not something I was part of and actually always victimized me. So I was able to really see what was going on in the world and while still being able to function fairly well and achieve pretty high levels of life coming from absolutely nothing. So the whole idea is that, and I believe also this is part of seeing the world different in a physical reality, that because of the fact that I'm highly dyslexic, I see the world completely different. I see that things don't work out right. I see the nonsense of so-called systems and we should do something. Well, I think there's better ways to do everything. And that's just built into my consciousness, the way my brain works. Now, if you're not thinking that way, you're not going to reach Gnosis. If you think that everything's okay, and that things are going fine, and that all the systems are okay, doctors are good in helping you, the police are your friend, the military protects you, all the bullshit, and this is just on a very low level of understanding. There are many, many intricacies of this. So, If you fall into anybody, and I see this all the time from people, I'm waiting for, as the old cliche goes, the other shoe to drop, and you hear people talk alternative, and then all of a sudden they fall back into some sort of society belief. Well, Jesus and God and Krishna and Bupalukris, and they get into this, and then they hit you with their religions, which means they're very limited in their understandings. They found one little thing, but they run into a giant wall in life because they've now built a box for themselves. So believing in anything is absurd. So, and understanding things from the place that we're at right now, which is we're in this pretty much this middle zone right now, where getting out of the, quote, dark ages and believing in silly superstitions. But of course, we've rejected all the good parts of these things, the spirit energies that work with everything, the nature divas that can help, all the things we've rejected to go into science of chemicals. Yes, well, you grow stuff by putting this here. Using these chemicals, nitrogen, potassium, etc. This is it's a very crude way of looking at things and very Newtonian. But of course, Newton was very much of a mystic, religious person, etc. They'd taken only part of his work and rejected the rest. How typical. So the whole idea is we're living in this Newtonian thing because it kind of explains things on this very crude base level. We're now finding out that very crude base level gets you out of a hole, but it's not how the universe works whatsoever. Everything is completely different than everybody believes it is. And a lot of this stuff has been known for hundreds of years, and as silly as the fact of that we can't change things in the textbooks, so we're not going to change the new information. So, there's just ridiculousness of this. Science is known for gaining new thoughts with the death of each old world believer. So in science, as heads of different departments or philosophies or beliefs die, things move ahead because now there's not that blockage there. What a garbage belief system that is. So to think that we know anything about that, and since we're changing and we moved away from silly mysticism into stupid practicalism based on laws of so-called physics and reality that kind of work but then kind of don't. So we all understand now the world is this quantum physics. And quantum physics is not new. It goes back hundreds of years, and there is this reality that is there in the way the universe is based. Now, do you understand all that? Well, you probably don't. You're probably still thinking all these things. You have to reject everything. Now, there is no quick path to Gnosis, and how each individual does it is unknown. But you have to really reject everything that you believe in. Nothing that we do in this earth plane or created by earth people, regardless of their, quote, spirituality, has any value whatsoever. There may be some minor interest in certain people and things, but what has any of them done? What has the Dalai Lama and the ridiculous Tibetan belief systems, as well as Buddhism and all the other major religions, ever done? Absolutely nothing. We look at the countries that follow these religions, and even on their basic reality, nothing is happening there of value. Of course, nothing's happening in any place, really, of value. While so-called Western civilizations have built to higher levels in terms of having certain facilities, these things are really not true, because whatever was built cannot be sustained. There's people, the West with all its money can't take care of its people medically and all the other things that go with that. So while systems have been put in there, the systems don't work. The systems don't work because man itself is very corrupt. And where are they getting their information from? From the very corrupt churches. So the point is certainly nothing is coming from there, and certainly nothing comes from egotistical atheistic philosophies that we can see from the Chinese and Russians, etc., who we can say were non-religious. Well, they have extremely corrupt, evil societies, and certainly Russia has achieved absolutely nothing. China, with its money, is certainly building massive, beautiful, advanced cities, yet they're still I don't care about anything, destroying the planet every time they can just for profit. Certainly people that aren't very smart. So as we move into all these areas, we need to understand this. So do you understand these things? Do you see life from this perspective? And this is a perspective that is not going to bring you happiness. Now the point is that if you are seeking happiness, you're certainly not going to get it from reaching the state of Gnosis. When you see the world and the filth that it is, and the destruction that this psychotic, evil race of dominant humans have done to this planet, as the parasitic nature of them, you're not going to be happy about it. At least you certainly shouldn't be. But this is a huge Gnosis epiphany. Plain and simple is that you're not trying to make this world better. You're not going to. History already proves all of the same problems that we've had thousands of years ago are the same problems we have today. And it's always amusing watching old news reports from the 20s, 30s, or even reading stuff in the 1800s or even before that. It's the same problems all the time. Corruption and the evil species of man butchering everybody all the time. So the point is it never changes. Things get more corrupt as time goes on. There's plenty of everything for everybody, yet this is not how the world works. So we need to keep these things in perspective, and you need to see these. Are you able to see this? How do you see this? How do you perceive the world? Well, the whole idea is you initially start breaking with the realities that you believe in. You don't follow silly traditional belief systems of any type whatsoever. So you have to stop that. You have to see what the ridiculousness of religion, political parties, and how it's all just a big joke, and how everything is put together to control you for the people at the top. Now, this is not new thought, but you have to embrace it. You also have to embrace that the pundits that tell you all these things and give you stories of what's going on to terrorize you never have any answers. So it means what they're telling you, while there may be some truth in it, is again a disinformation campaign. So do you understand that? So you can't just fall into these things. So as I've stated, it's not a state of direct empowerment. If you know what to do in every situation or are guided to it, then you have to do the work involved in it. You're not given the instantaneous answers. Let's give an example here. Meaning, if there's money to be made in, let's say, the lottery, you're not going to be given the lotto numbers because you've reached Gnosis. You're not going to be given the stock that is going to go through the roof. You are given knowledge of these systems, or you are given knowledge said that, look, there's money to be made here. You will be guided as you study and learn it and put all the hours and hours of training into it. You'll be guided to the answers. You'll be not given the answers like some stupid Hollywood movie. These things don't happen. If that's the case, you would be a god. And I've talked about this, that there are no miracles and there are no gods living on it. What's the purpose of life if you're a god? What's the purpose of manifesting anything you want and beating the system? It doesn't happen. You will not be allowed to. You will be destroyed. Do you understand these concepts? This is very, very important. So the point is you will be led to there. Now that is the biggest hurdle to come over in life. Most people don't know where to start. And even if you go down a road, you're generally guided down the wrong path. The prime example is, well, I want to make money. You go on YouTube and find ways to make money. Well, that's certainly a good start. But who do you run into? You run into all the hucksters who lie to you. They tell you all sorts of things to take your money, to give you mediocre training, while they sit in front of Ferraris and other cars saying how much money they've made. Well, it has absolutely nothing to do that you're going to make that money. Or they have as well. Most of them are complete cons. So this is what happens. Now, are you smart enough to catch that? Well, this is what happens. So everybody is enthusiastic. They want to succeed. They get behind these charismatic people so that they can benefit from it. The point is, you need to understand from the get-go that the fact is that this is a con. These people are not making this money. Where's the proof? What have they done? A prime example of this is Ty Lopez, who's a very charismatic person who initially I supported. And of course, his information is generally okay, that he tells you how to make money in certain areas. The bottom line is that he hasn't made money in those areas. He's a guy that started out selling insurance and got into dating clubs, kind of murky dating clubs. Date a millionaire, date a model. Well, that's very bizarre. Do millionaires and models really need dating clubs? So all of this has a murky and strange situation involved in it. So what does that mean? So it goes with all people, is that what you're seeing out there from most people is complete frauds. We also see so many people on YouTube spouting their belief systems who are a bunch of nobodies, have done nothing, achieved nothing. People who are even in their 20s telling people about philosophical understandings when hundreds of thousands and even millions of people are watching them. Why? So this is because they're not very discriminant, and they want to hear what they want to hear. They want to be told different things instead of reality. It's hard to sell people on the bigger path and what's going on here. So, and it's also important that you understand that, Gnosis is about reaching states of consciousness, mastering the physical reality. Have you done that? Can you manifest the money you need and the situations to get what you have to? Well, I don't see a lot of that happening with people who want to go to Gnosis either. They struggle with getting products. They struggle with getting their systems and so forth. These are all problems, and if you don't have your technologies, your books, your training, you're not going to get anywhere. If you don't have a Triforce super system, you're not going to get anywhere. These tools were not developed to make money. They were designed to move people along. The profits that are gained go to support the organization so that they can continue their important work. So, do you have this? Well, that's the first state of Gnosis. The first state of Gnosis is having all the tools you need to control your physical world, what's happening with your life. And few people seem to understand that. From there, of course, it's reaching these higher levels of understanding and then acting upon them. Now, we've given people all these practices. Yet, again, from centering to the occult gym, are you doing these? Well, certainly not many. Are you watching and listening to all the videos and audios? Well, I don't see that from, you should be going back and listening to these constantly, that some of the most critical videos and audios have pathetic views on them. Certainly, someone's not going back and listening to those 3, 4, 5 times. And more. You should be listening to things over and over again so you understand the concepts, because every day when you listen to something new, or I should say again, it is new. And you're picking up more information from it, I hope. So all of this is that is not something that can be quantified in terms of do this and that to reach this state. It is not like that. It is the ultimate state, and it's not going to be reached easily. And you're going to have to spend a lot of time now and invest in the necessary products. But it's not just investing. Where are you? What are you doing? Are you listening to these very critical information? And there's not a single video that we have posted from the actual IGOS that isn't of great value. Some are a little fun. Some are more practical than others, but they're all practical and give you information as a person seeking Gnosis must have and understand. Yet people don't even understand the basics. They don't understand how society works. They don't understand how corrupt everything really is and how controlled. You have absolutely no idea. People think they do, and they have this warm and fuzzy illusion of reaching Gnosis when they have no chance in hell of getting there because they're bought into a system, they're believing in nonsense, and you are supporting it. So if you want to reach Gnosis, you have to reject everything. Now, I've talked about this and given people practical ways as well as the centering, which gets people to a point where they can understand these at higher levels. Are you doing that? Well, I don't see this yet again. There doesn't seem to be any kind of, from what I can trace from people, between the views of videos and the even sales of centering books, etc., are minimal. So people aren't really trying that. And if you don't have these things, if you're not using it, well, what do you think's going to happen? But reaching a high state of gnosis is not something that can be done easily. It's not something that you're going to be able to do 1, 2, 3 within 2 years, 5 years. It takes years and years. It takes a lifetime to reach these levels. Going through the disillusionment stages is very traumatic. Do you understand it? Most people don't. On any level whatsoever, even after traumatic events. A lot of things that happen in your life are pushing you towards understanding. But what happens with most people is they go the wrong way when something happens to them. They become embittered without understanding, well, this embitterment is a tool to be used so you understand the greater levels of consciousness. You don't get it. So, to think you're going to reach this high state, the state of gnosis, to reach Christ consciousness, which is a term of basically meaning gnosis, which has been tried and studied for thousands of years, is not going to be easy. And you have to think differently. People think that this is going to just happen to them when it takes a lifetime. I haven't come to very important realizations except in the last 10 years. Before that, while I understood these things to a certain level, it's even hard to believe things. If I tell you something, you don't really believe it until you experience it, and rightfully so. There's a lot of people are telling stories out there, and a lot of people have their own path to go on that doesn't relate to yours, but there are universal truths. And this is, of course, what Gnosis is built on. You don't believe in earth-based, non-selective, non-free will philosophies. You have no free will if you believe in earth-based consciousness. Earth-based consciousness is an enslavement. It comes from somebody. Mommy, daddy, the establishment, the schools you went to. You're all of this combination. You're this giant puzzle that has been put together from a bad puzzle that fits poorly together, but that's your foundation, because you can't make free will. You have chemicals within your body that tell you to do things and react in a particular way. Your free will is non-existent as a common human being, because you're programmed by all this. How do you obtain free will? You attain free will by reaching the state of gnosis where you don't give any credit to anything. You now become a freak and a deviant in this society, and they want to destroy you. Plain and simple. I don't know if anyone really gets that. You don't believe in earth-based realities because they're all false. There's nothing that comes from this reality that has any value whatsoever. Certainly, philosophical belief systems and religious belief systems, political, etc., have no value whatsoever. And society runs around telling you nonsense, studying things that have no value when they should be studying the human brain and how people can function at higher levels and stopping corruption. They're not going to solve problems. Problems are never solved. That's not the point of the way society works. And you're going to try and solve problems with society's creative thinking. It isn't going to happen. You have to think on an intergalactic level. You have to detach yourself from this reality and think from a what would be considered galactic or cosmic consciousness, where there's a universal understanding what is right and wrong, but not right and wrong of what works in this entire universe. What doesn't work is the way that Earth-based humans are doing. This doesn't work. This planet is on a time bomb of destruction. It's going to happen. It's just when. We continue to destroy every possible thing on this planet, and there's no going back. And there's certainly no saving anything. Now, the super rich will be able to survive longer, and of course they want to make sure you fund their projects to other planets, which is absurd in itself. But the whole idea is that there is no hope for this planet whatsoever in long term. Now, things aren't going to happen in a few days or months or even 10, 20, 30 years, but 50, 100 years from now, this is going to be a pretty bad place. Things are getting worse and worse. And particularly in the places that it counts, which is your basic financial reality. And while they continue to want to have masses of people around, nobody wants to fund anything, educate people, take care of their medical or anything else. So we're on a horrible collision course, but hey, don't worry, your neighbors will fight with the government to kill you. That's how it works. Do you get it? I doubt it. There certainly isn't any kind of unity or support from people who want to go on Gnosis. Nobody's jumping to the aid of this organization or any other. I've not seen any great people going out there and doing things. I don't see any great support on YouTube or our social media or our other areas where people can express themselves. They're self-centered into you want something, and of course that is very human-based, and of course stops Gnosis from manifesting whatsoever. So hopefully this has been enlightening to people to understand that, but your participation on many levels is important. If you expect to stay motivated and reach the state of Gnosis, you have to be involved in the process. You have that with this organization. You're very lucky if you're listening to this right now. But there's always been a mediocre support. If you don't have the tools that you need, if you're not following these systems, you're not going to get anywhere. If you want to be in debt, you should be in debt to get these kind of products so that your life can be changed and empowered instead of being in debt for other stupid things. These are things you need and should have now. People that wait show that they are not connected to the empowerment. They listen to others. Well, this is important. This is something you need to do now. Tomorrow is an illusion. You need to get going and get going now. So these are all the things that show to me whether someone is really dedicated on this path or not. Are you making the necessary physical investments and carrying through that with all the other things that you have to do? We offer huge amounts of free training and free guidance, and this is no other organization does that, and you should be happy that you have such a support as this. But where is it out there? Well, it's the same old story, and this has always been the case since time and millennium, I'm assuming, but there's always 5 or 10 people that do everything, and this is with most organizations. The rest of the people are hangers-on, and nobody participates. But this isn't an organization where we do something for you. You have to participate. You have to follow through with the practices. You don't do these, you don't get anywhere. The flip of the switch, the click of the fingers, and you're just empowered is not a reality. It's shown in movies and in novels because the fantasy sells. That's what we all want. We want to take a pill. We want to have things happen easily. It's just not the way things are done because it would have no value. If everybody was rich, money would have no value. If everybody could reach the state of Gnosis, it would have no value. If it was easy to do any of this, it would have no value. This is all part and parcel of what is going on out there and finding your way through this very thick forest with all sorts of problems and dangers. You are lucky enough to have an organization that's guiding you. But are you following through? Are you going through and looking at all the videos and audios that have been made? Are you an all-access member so you get information consistently? Well, I don't see much effort on very many people. They don't seem to be participating. People are not coming out there investing their money into organizations to get their necessary products the way they should. You are hurting yourself, plain and simple. And this is not about sales. These are tools you need to have. We don't get anything free. I don't have free rent. I don't have free food. Everybody needs money to survive. If enough people participated at a high enough level, all of this would be very easy, and we could spend a lot more time devoting to assisting people to reach these in higher states, as well as doing all sorts of research. We don't have these facilities or this kind of a cash flow to have a decent staff, so we are limited in what we can produce. This is all part of the challenge that is out there. And how long we even want to bother doing this for others is another question entirely. So All of this is something that we need to, as a group, understand. And as individuals, if you expect to get someplace, you're not going to get there by wishing and hoping. And thinking that you want to reach a particular state, when I see very little evolution from people that say that. I mean, you just barely get it, some people, because you're getting all this new information that you know nothing about. But the question is, why didn't you find out about these things before? From health to everything else, people know nothing. You know nothing of what you should be doing to take care of yourself, what to eat, how to take care of your physical body. Most people are not in a very good financial position. All of this comes down to the fact that you are not getting it. Now, this is typical of alternative people because they are disconnected and generally aren't in what you call these corporate jobs, which make a lot of money, or even business world, which make a lot of money as well. So all of this is a factor that stops people from reaching their levels of empowerment. And if you do wish to reach these levels, we have the program there. And if you're not doing your centering, if you're not doing your occult gym practices, then you'll never get anywhere. Plain and simple. If you're not listening to all the audios, which give you all sorts of huge, very important Gnosis information, you're not going to get anywhere. Yet I don't see any of those videos have any kind of massive views. Older stuff that is buried lower down on our channel, which of course is scattered throughout our website, have mediocre views. And why is that? Why isn't that? The views that are on there, the 20 or 30 views that are on there, is something that one person should be totaling that up in a couple of months by going back and listening to it and re-listening to it. Yet it's not. So those people who say they want to reach Gnosis, well, I don't really see them doing it. That's another wish thinking. They're not investing neither their time nor their energy to understand things. And thinking there's going to be a magic pill, a magic machine, is not the way anything works. As I've stated, if it was that easy, it would have no value. That's why this entire reality is set up in a very particular way. And you need to understand that, and you need to start taking the steps it takes to reach this level if you really want it. But are you? Well, I don't see people doing that. People want to have things without it. They want to be a master at anything, whether it's kung fu or tennis or whatever it may be. They want to be a master at that, like something out of the Matrix. They want to have their head plugged in, that go into their programming, and all of a sudden they're a master at that. Well, this never will ever work like that because there are physical buildings if you're doing a physical task. If you expect to be super fast with a reality such as a martial art, well, you're going to have to physically build the body to do that, not just the mind. So it's a combination. So, and it takes a lot of time and hard work. So as usual, people, this is the reality out there. Those who have specific questions are welcome to contact me as always. But this path is a long path, and going through the disillusionment period should be mind-screwing to you. This should be something that once you get the realization of, and you don't have the real, because you don't see it. If you're a person who's well, you don't understand the horrific problems of being sick. If you haven't ran into corruption because you haven't paid attention or been hiding like most people do, you don't get it. It's only by going out and seeing and observing and becoming the master at observation of what's really going on is one of the major first steps. Are you seeing? It's there. What is your interactions? And I find people are very self-centered and they're not really interested in knowing this. You want to have a tag, you want to have a badge, you want to have a medal of reaching the state of Gnosis. Good luck, it doesn't work like that. And quite frankly, very few people ever leave that. As far as I'm concerned at this point, I don't know of anybody else other than myself who's reached the state of Gnosis. People who think they're philosophically balanced people, certainly I've never seen any of them. Certainly not anyone in Buddhism or the Dalai Lama or the Pope or any of these idiots have done anything, and they've showed zero power. The fact that they have some philosophical understandings that are interesting and even correct doesn't make them a person of great empowerment. They've achieved nothing and continue to achieve nothing as they go talking to a greedy, rotten world and achieving nothing. They certainly haven't brought anything to the public for anyone to buy into. So you have a bunch of weak-kneed people who are following all these losers who are self-centered, rotten people. That's what it's all about. So, until next time.